Hello, my name is Inaijsa and welcome to Lipstick Locs and Lyrics. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and hop into this foundation routine. So for foundation, I always like to use something, especially for the winter time, that's moisturizing and glowy, because I think most people's skin in the wintertime gets pretty dry. So today I'm going to be using the L'Oreal Pro Glow foundation, and this is in the shade Classic Tan 210, and this is an amazing glowy foundation, but it stays on and it has great coverage. So I'm going to be using this, but I'm also going to be mixing it with my Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation in Cocoa, and that's because I do still get oily even though I am drier in the wintertime. So I'm gonna put this in the places where I tend to get dry, so like on my perimeter, and then I'm gonna put this more matte one in the center of my face. And also the colors kind of differ, so it's gonna help me color match my face to my neck. And to blend that in, I'm just gonna use this no name kabuki brush that I got off of Amazon. And I'm just going to buff that in, and then I'm going to go over it with a beauty blender to pat everything out. I did also go ahead and prime my face with the Smashbox Pore Minimizing Primer. This is a very good primer if you have big pores, or if you just want to smooth your skin out. Like if you have any blemishes, this is perfect to put over it. Yeah, so let's go ahead and blend the foundation on the face. When I am using a brush, I'm also doing swiping motions and then patting motions, and then swiping the product across and then patting it in again. This kind of helps to move the product where you want it and then pat it in to keep it there. You use swiping motions to move the product and then patting motions to get the most coverage out of it and keep it where it actually is. I hate it when I'm doing the rest of my makeup and then I see this little patch on my face that wasn't blended or it doesn't have foundation on it. So I really like to make sure that every inch of my face is covered and blended as best as possible with the brush before I go in with the Beauty Blender. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my damp beauty blender. It looks dirty, but I cleaned it. I promise. It's just stained. I'm going to take the pointy side and I'm just going to go ahead and pat over everything to kind of give it a seamless blend. And I'm also taking my time with this step, and I'm patting very lightly. You don't want to swipe with this step because that's what we did with the brush. And with the brush, we kept the product where we wanted to put it. And with this, we're just blending it into the skin to make it look more flawless, seamless, and all that jazz. Alright, so now it is time to move on to concealer. I like to use something that's very full coverage and also a few shades lighter than my natural skin tone. Not too light because that would just mess up the color that we have going on with the foundation. So I will be using my Tarte Shape Tape Concealer in the shade Tan. And I'm just going to use it in dots. I'm going to take what's on the brush and I'm just going to go dot, 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 down my nose, in the center of my forehead, on my cupid's bow, there's a hair on my wand, on my chin, and then I'm going to blend out the 3 dots that I have there. Just like that. And then I'm going to put a little bit on my eyes, and this is going to act as an eyeshadow primer for when I do my eyeshadow. And I'm not re-dipping my wand at all. This is a very full coverage concealer, so you don't want a lot of product or else it's going to have nowhere to go and then it's going to cake up really badly. So you kind of want to keep it where you need it. I would suggest that if you don't want to go for a full coverage day, this is just my full coverage foundation routine, but if I were going for like a non-full coverage day, I would use 1 dot of that and just cover where I needed to cover, basically spot concealing with that concealer. So as you can see, putting the concealer on the highest points of my face, so like under my eyes, my chin, my nose, my forehead, it kind of just brings more dimension to everything than if I would have just left my foundation. Like I said before, if you're going for more of a lighter coverage or just like a natural everyday look, I would only use 1 dot of concealer just to cover up where you need to, and then leave your natural skin to breathe. But this is a full coverage routine, so we're going in. Also, another thing that I forgot to mention is I always get questions about how I keep my foundation from breaking up, or how it stays looking fresh all day. There's a couple things that can help with that, but the first thing is to make sure that your primer and your foundation as well as your concealer are compatible, because if you're using a water-based primer but then an oil-based foundation and you try and blend those together, your foundation is going to separate because water and oil don't mix. So it's important to know the ingredients of what you're getting as well, because if a foundation works for you but you want to try a primer, you have to make sure that that primer works with that foundation and the ingredients way of it. If you like a certain primer, you have to make sure that the foundation is compatible with that as well. So after we have blended in our concealer and blended out all the creases underneath our eyes, we're gonna go ahead and take a setting powder and bake under our eyes. And I do this method where when I bake under my eyes, I don't wipe it away when I'm done with it. I take my beauty blender and I blend it into my skin. And it's kind of like my skin bakes all day long. And I find that that really works for me. I remember the first time I did it, I remember that day because I came back home and my skin looked as if I had just done my makeup, and it was very awesome. So I haven't stopped using this method and it's always worked for me. I have combination skin, and if you have oily skin, I would say try this method out and let me know if it works for you down in the comments below, because it works very well for me and I haven't changed since. I'll be using my Airspun powder that I got from Walgreens, and I will be taking just this regular cosmetic sponge and just pressing it under my eyes. I will be also taking the powder up the sides of my nose. And then I'm going to bring it on the center of my nose, forehead, basically everywhere we put the concealer. Just like that. And then I'm going to set the tops of my eyes after I blend out the creases. You want to make sure that right after you blend out your creases, that's when you set, because you don't want to set your creases. Okay, so after we have the under eyes set, we're going to go ahead and set the rest of the face. So I like to set the rest of my face with a powder foundation. That is because it helps cover some of the things that my foundation didn't cover, because I didn't go in heavy with the foundation. You don't want to go in really cakey with your foundation, because then when you put powder on top, any powder on top, it's going to make it look cakey. I'm going to be taking my Maybelline Super Stay Better Skin powder foundation, and I'm going to take it on this Wet n Wild powder brush, and I'm just going to swirl it around, and I'm just going to go in and lightly set the rest of my face. By the time you finish with setting the rest of your face with that powder foundation, it should be time to go back with your beauty blender and blend the powder in underneath your eyes. So let's go ahead and blend that in. And again, you don't want to swipe with this. You just want to pat it in until all the powder has melted into your under eyes. So as you can see, we have a pretty flawless base going on right now. And now we're going to go ahead and get into the contouring part of this foundation routine and the highlighting, the best part. So for contour today, I'm going to be going ahead and using my Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. Love this stuff. It's absolutely amazing. I use all three colors. You can see that I use this one the most, and I'll show you why. First, what I like to do is I personally like to contour before I bronze. Some people like to bronze before they contour. Sometimes I like to bronze before I contour, but usually I contour before I bronze just because I like to blend out the contour with the bronzer instead of blending out the bronzer with my contour on top, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna go in with the deepest shade called Somber on this angled shiny brush. This is actually a blush brush, but it's angled like a contour brush, so that's what I'm going to use it for. So I dip lightly into that color because it is very pigmented, and then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cup my cheek. And I've kind of found it that this little flap right here on your ear, if you connect that with your contour, it goes to the end of your mouth, and that's where you want to contour. So I'm just taking this color from that spot, and I'm going to go ahead and start defining my cheek. But the beautiful thing about makeup is if you want to create your cheek higher or lower or fuller looking than it actually is, you can do that with this step. For instance, if you wanted to make your cheekbone look higher, all you would have to do is you wouldn't go from your ear to your lip. You would go probably a little bit above here and then scoop it under to your lip. It depends on what effect you're going for. I'm just trying to define my natural cheek shape. So I'm gonna follow my natural cheek shape, but there are different ways of making your face look different. And that's why I admire drag queens, because they do it all the time and they're so good at it. And automatically you can see the difference from side to side. This side automatically looks more structured and this side does not. I'm bringing back the life and the shape to my face by doing the contouring and the bronzing steps. So we're going to go ahead and do the same on this side. After we have our contour on and poppin', we are going to go ahead and bronze the face. So for bronzing, I like to take this huge fluffy brush, and this is the Shiny medium powder brush. I like this brush because it's fluffy and it blends out those harsh edges that we had with the contour. So for bronzer and blending that out, I'm going to take this middle shade called Shadow Play and this more grayish shade called Subconscious, and I'm going to blend and bronze my contour. So I'm taking mostly this middle shade, but then just a dab of the more gray shade, and then we're gonna go ahead and just blend it out. I'm starting from the very back and then bringing it forward, because with contouring and bronzing, the purpose is to keep it on the perimeter of your face to give it shape and structure. So you don't want to bring it in too far in, unless that is the look you're going for. Also, I don't have a big forehead, so I'm not going to contour too much around my forehead. I will bronze around there though, but I'm not going to contour because if I did, it would just look like I have no forehead, and I would like to keep that. But if you do have a big forehead, I would recommend taking the darker shade and taking this angled brush as usual and bringing the color back into your hairline from your temple. You don't want to start too far in. You kind of want to start from your hairline and bring it down to where you want it to be, because if you start right on your forehead where you think you want it, it's going to end up way too small and you're going to regret everything, and it's not going to be cute. So after we bronzed with the Shade and Light palette, I'm going to go in with another bronzer, and this is the Revolution Ultra Bronze Bronzer. I'm just going to take that on the same fluffy brush, swirl it in there like one time. I just went like this, swirl it in there one time, and then put that on top. I like to be fairly bronzed just because that's what I like. That's what I like. Around my forehead again, and then underneath my jawline and chin, just like that. Whew. Okay, and then yeah. Now, personally, what I like to do is I like to do my highlight and then my blush instead of blush and then highlight, because I kind of like putting on my highlight and then blending everything together, like my contour, my bronze, and my highlight together with my blush. That's just my, you know, pattern of doing things. You do you, but I'm gonna move on to highlight. So for highlight, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into my Nicole Guerrero and Anastasia Beverly Hills collaboration highlighting palette. Oh, that's bright. I'm kind of feeling Daydream. I'm kind of feeling this peachy color right here. Yeah. I will be taking this Sephora fan brush and I'm just gonna dip it into Daydream, dry, and then put it on my cheek. Yes. Yes. Oop, y'all, I got too excited. I forgot to contour my nose. I want to get to the highlight real quick. Okay, so let's jump to nose contour real quick before we move on. So for nose contour, I like to go back into my Shade and Light palette and I go into the middle shade right here, and I'm just going in with this no name brush because it got wiped off. So I'm just gonna go in. It's just a thick, fluffy brush. Honestly, it might be too big for contouring, but I use it because it works for me. So I'm just gonna take that color really lightly. And for nose contours, I like to start, you can naturally see where your nose shadows. And I see a lot of makeup artists who like to go, they like to cinch their nose in even farther than their natural shadow, but when I do that, it just looks weird. So I just follow my natural shadow and along my natural bridge, and I like the way it looks. So try it. Nose contour is very preference driven, so just keep trying until you find what works for your nose in particular. But I like to start from the kind of top of my nose and then just take it lightly, very light-handedly, and just follow my natural bridge. Back to the highlight. After highlight is on and poppin', we're gonna go ahead and go on to blush. I'm going to go into my Profusion Studio Blush Palette that I got at TJ Maxx for $5. It's an amazing blush palette. And I'm just going to take my, again, a no-named brush, but it's just a slanted blush brush that I like to use. And I'm gonna go in with these two peachy shades right here. They don't have names, sadly. But these two peachy shades at the top. And I'm going to start from the back of my cheek and then move forward. So back of my cheek and then move forward. And this is going to blend my contour and highlight together. Just like that. Give some color. I don't know why I say it like that. Color. So this is the final foundation routine done. Highlight, contour, blush, everything included. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna go ahead and go do the rest of my makeup and go out for the day. So if you guys have any questions about my foundation routine or anything else, please leave it in the comments down below. I will be sure to get back to you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video on Lipstick Locs and Lyrics, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye guys. Mwah. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and hop into this foundation room. Not too light because that would just mesh up. So as you can see, putting the not too light because that would just, so, excuse me. I know. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the contouring. Contour with corn. Ew, that's gross. And now we're just gonna go ahead. Where's my concealer? Here it is. So